You in there?
Yeah.
Can you zoom into the paper? You picking up all the words?
You can't really read the words.
No?
No, but you can see them.
All right, so here on the second stanza, it reads, "Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. Put in below the home of Brown." So, what we have here is a map with some hot springs that are all listed. Hot springs and mineral baths in New Mexico, and that's kind of where we're going to start. We're not sure if the hot waters halt or warm waters halt is the hot spring, but it's a good place to start because, well, it's north of Santa Fe, and we've got a clue there about warm waters stopping, halting. We're still kind of wondering about the meaning of that word, but where do the waters or the treasure, something has been taken down into the canyon, and we're not sure if that's the waters from the hot springs or perhaps it's the treasure that's down there. But we're going to start in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, which is where the treasure millionaire resides. He currently lives there, and hell, we're going to see if we can even find the guy. So that's the plan so far. That's the second stanza. So again, starting with the first, moving on to the second, that's kind of where we're at, and we're kind of curious to see where this is going to take us. So we'll see after a while. Do you guys have any input about the hot waters, warm waters halt?
What do you think, Junior?
I believe that where the geysers stop or something like that. Not geysers, I mean hot springs, but where they stop, maybe...
like where the Trail of Amends? Or something like that?
Yes.
What do you think about that, Uncle Raw?
Well, I think your Uncle Paul here, your dad here's got a good start with the hot springs. And the cool thing is we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun looking at the different springs because there's quite a few of them here. San Antonio Hot Springs, Macaulay Hot Springs, Soda Dam Hot Springs. Your Uncle Paul said something about Soda Dam Hot Springs, and the fella used to talk about, what is it, the caps of his soda?
He used the first collection of soda pop cans, soda pop tops.
So he collected tops from soda pops. And an interesting thing that your dad also said was that apparently some of these mineral springs are believed to have healing powers. And we all know that this guy who had... Forrest Fenn is the guy who hid the treasure. He had cancer, and living in Santa Fe, having access to some of these hot springs, being kind of a superstitious state, I hate to use that word, but I can't think of any other. He may, because he was cured of his cancer, he may have gone to a spring and may have, soaked in this spring several times and then believed that was the cure of his cancer. So who's to say that that wouldn't be an appropriate place for him to put his treasure because he believes it to be the source of his healing. So, I think it's a good start. We've got something here. We'd love to be in Yellowstone, which is where a lot of people are saying it might be. There are a lot of clues that might suggest that, and of course, what he has in his book and the things we've read online, they kind of do show that Yellowstone would be a good place to start, but of course, Yellowstone's too far for the short trip we're taking, and it's pretty dangerous during the winter. But we're getting what we probably would see in Yellowstone. If you take a look at all this beautiful white snow, this is more than I've ever seen here, and I've taken this drive maybe 3 dozen times. So this is beautiful. This is perhaps what we would have seen, and I think this is just as good, if not better, because it's here at home. So we'll talk to you after a while, and we'll continue to give some thought to this second stanza. Paul, do you have anything else to say about it?
No.
All right. I'll tell you, most people who are on the trail, hot on the trail, they believe, really put a lot of stock in this line about put in below the home of Brown. And that one there is a really interesting line because the first thing you want to think of is maybe brown trout. This guy was an avid fly fisherman. We then went on to maybe brown bear, which is a grizzly bear. But brown is capitalized too.
Bats.
And
Bats. Bats.
Bats, brown bats. You guys have talked about brown bats, yeah. And if we find a bat cave, I would love to go in there and say we've been in a bat cave and we were exploring. But there's a lot in that word brown, I'm sure. So we're really looking forward to seeing what that means and go from there. And that's the last line of that second stanza, which I think is one of the biggest clues in the poem. And yet it might be one of those things that's meant to throw us off too. So, all right, guys. See you after a while.
Okay.
Hey, checking right back with you here on this second stanza. Paul just had an interesting thought about warm waters halt. What'd you say, Paul?
So the halt, I looked up the word halt just to see if there were any other words, anything else that it may mean other than stop, because when we think of halt, we generally think that it means to stop. But the first couple definitions that I read, it said that it doesn't mean to stop, but to kind of continue just lamely. And so warm waters halt, maybe it's flowing into some other water, and it's still continuing to flow warmly, but just it's not as hot. It's just continuing lamely, as halt means. So I'm not sure. Maybe it means where it's flowing into some cooler water, or maybe it means hot water means something completely different.
Yeah, I got you. Speaking of halt, get your ass away from this guy. You're too close, man. We are in a snowstorm here, and Paul's driving just feet from this fella right in front of us. There's definitely ice on the road. I don't know if you guys can catch that, but we're talking about some pretty extreme conditions on the roadway here that we boys don't seem to mind too much, but if the girls were with us, they'd be having some hard time. But it is a white out almost here, and I'll tell you, it's a beautiful thing to see. We left home in our shorts and Vans shoes with no socks. I'm kind of interested to see what we're going to end up with before we go to bed tonight. So one last thing about the brown. Apparently my wife knows something about brown that I'm supposed to figure out, but she wasn't obliged to share it with me. So she said she'll tell me when I get back. Yeah, she said that. I mean, that's really what I had to leave with, but that's all right. That's cool. We'll figure it out, and if we don't get it this time, maybe next time. So, back to this beautiful, glorious weather, and we'll check in after a while. We got a little cameo here in our trip. Grandma Jill, we came to get boots for June because he didn't have any, so
he honestly came for chocolate chip cookies.
And of course she happened to throw some chocolate chip cookies in there.
That's all I have, or I would have given more.
So we are excited to see Nana Jill and get some boots, and the chocolate chip cookies are a little bonus too.
Alright, now we've gotten out of the snow here, like snow, and it's just been getting a little bit of, how do I say this? It's been sprinkling outside, but there's not been a whole lot of snow we've been able to see. It's pretty bare out here. Nothing, just a couple of bushes. So that's the update on things.
Alright guys, here we are looking at the third part of this poem, the third stanza. And it reads, "From there it's no place for the meek. The end is drawing ever nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high." Now, what do you guys think about that? What do you have to say, Paul? Get some light in here. I don't know.
I don't know. At first I started thinking it was brown trout, but it says below brown. But then I started thinking maybe instead of brown trout, they're Mexican free-tailed bats, which are also called brown bats. So I'm thinking maybe it was in a cave, and it says below the home of brown, and since the bats hang on the ceiling, it might be on the floor of the cave somewhere. And the heavy loads might have been referring to their crap that's on the floor of the cave. And the water high, maybe there's just some dripping water, maybe the cave's behind the waterfall or something like that, or some water seeping through the rocks, dripping down. like Goonies, but then I started rethinking it, considering it, and saying, you know, I don't know. I'm just not quite sure. I think I might have just been thinking too much about it.
What do you guys say back here?
Oh, well, I was thinking pretty much along the lines of it being a cave under a waterfall.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Same here.
June?
Same here.
A cave with the waterfall, huh?
Uh-huh. Going to the waterfall.
You know, I am kind of curious about this one line here that says, the end is ever drawing near. It says nigh, but that means near. And I'm wondering if it's not part of a cycle or something, because the end kind of comes and then it goes, but then it's bound to come back again. And I'm wondering if maybe there's an element of a cycle that's part of that. And then, of course, from there, it's no place for the meek. Now, here's what's kind of interesting about meek. You could look at that as meek, like you're scared, you're easy to fright, or it could mean the poor. It's no place for the meek, like the poor. And I'm wondering if maybe it's, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing. But that's the third stanza that has us there. We know there's water high, heavy loads of something. Maybe it's the heavy loads that you would need to get there, but then again, the old man carried it himself, so it's not likely you need to pack a huge backpack and carry a sack miles up the way to get to where you're going. So heavy loads of something, but maybe the heavy load was the treasure itself. So, give you some more to chew on there, and we'll get a little more video in between before we move on to the fourth stanza. All right, checking out.